G'day everyone, True here with another African violet video. I just wanted to show you what can happen if your African violets get too much sunlight and how they look. So this is a classic example of an African violet. I've actually got 4 examples here of African violets that have got too much sunlight. Unfortunately, one of my greenhouses, where I've had to locate it just because I don't have a lot of room, it's gets quite a lot of morning sunlight, and because of that, some of my plants are exhibiting that the yellowing of the leaves. You can see the outer leaves here are quite yellow, and because they are the older leaves as well, they're exhibiting it a bit more than the newer leaves coming through, but they're a lot brighter in color than my other African violets that are in the greenhouses that get a little bit more shade and not as much sunlight. So what I want to do today is just I'll show you each of the examples so you'll know exactly what it looks like when your African violets are getting too much sunlight. And sometimes it's hard to know because they do need a lot of bright indirect light so that they can flower, but you don't want them to have too much bright indirect sunlight, because it actually will they'll still flower. Like this example here is going to flower, but they won't flower as well. So it's just something to be aware of. You can also see that you'll get a little bit of thinning in the leaves as well, and you'll see a little bit of the veining coming through, which is another thing that you will see if they just get too much sunlight. So I'm just going to remove these outer leaves, and to do that I'm just using some bonsai scissors that I have, which I find it a bit easier to get into underneath the main crown to remove these outer leaves. And you don't want to cut them too close to the inner stalk. So if you can see there, I'm not cutting them right up against it. I'm cutting them just that little bit further out, and the reason for that is it makes it less likely for diseases and things to get into the plant. So if you start having an issue, you have a little bit of room to remove. If it starts rotting or getting diseased, it will give you a little bit more room to sort of remove it, and less likely to hurt the overall plant. Just going to remove these outer leaves. You don't have to do it this way. I mean, you can do it whichever way you like. You can actually see that leaf there is already broken off, and you can see it's got a little bit of damage there, but we will move it a little bit closer. So now I can take another layer off, but I don't like to do that. I just want to take one layer off because I don't want to traumatize the plant too much. And because it is flowering, I just want to make it, tidy it up a little bit, remove some of those older leaves that really aren't benefiting it at all, and I don't want to shock it too much. So I like to do this in stages. So that's the first plant. This is the second one. So you can see it's got the same issue happening. You've got the crown, you've got these sort of long stalks. So what we'll do is we'll remove these outer stalks. That leaf just broke off when I was bringing them over to do the filming, so just be careful not to cut any of the other I'm just going to remove all these. And that one. So you can see it's looking a bit better. This one's getting quite a long neck to it, so at some stage we will need to trim this one back, but at this stage we'll just leave it. So these couple have got a little bit of not rotting, but just didn't look too good. So I'm just going to remove those little sections off. So that's looking a bit better. So next one you can see. So that too much sunlight really does affect them. But these are just examples so that you will know if your plant's getting too much sunlight. You'll see this sort of thinning in the leaves, that pattern, and then that yellowing, like the plant becomes, I mean, some African violets are lighter in colouring anyway, but it's a definite, like the inner leaves will be different typically to the outer leaves. And it just will mean you won't get as good a flowering. Your plant won't be as happy. And these plants aren't getting direct sunlight. Like, it is mottled because it's in a greenhouse, so the outside is sort of shading it and mottling a little bit. So it's not going to be getting too much direct sunlight. But they just don't like it. They don't like that too much. And this is another example where you also get these sort of really long stems, and they just don't grow as nicely as what they would normally. So we'll just finish removing off these outer leaves. And with this one, you can see it's got a little offshoot there, and a few other. And this one's actually had a leaf broken off, and it does have a bit of damage in there. So we'll try and remove that a bit. This has actually got 2 plants in there by the looks of it. So you can see, I can try and take the dirt down a little bit. You can actually see there's 1 plant there and 1 plant there. So this one will also need to be divided up in the future. It's a little tricky to see, but there are 2 plants that are growing in there. And if you go back through previous videos, I do have previous videos there which show you how to divide, when you get multiple plants in a pot, how to divide them up. But I will show you again soon because I have plenty that need dividing up. So that's all of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to keep all these leaves, because even though they're older leaves, you can actually propagate them and get more plants from them. Now, they are older leaves, so they're, your ratio of success may be a little less. But I don't want to throw them out because I just think that's a waste. So I will try and propagate the better ones that are here. And yeah, and they're well worth. I mean, they're older, but that will grow. That will grow babies. These leaves will grow babies. So definitely worth it. So this is how they look now that they've been trimmed up. They look much healthier, much happier. And that'll help them to flower better, and they're just, it's just an overall tidy up, and I will have to look at finding a new spot for that greenhouse where these plants are. They've been there for a couple of months now, and it's been progressively getting worse and worse. Or I can try and put like a bit of shade cloth over the left side of the greenhouse that's getting too much sunlight. But that's just part and parcel with growing African violets. One of the hardest parts is finding the right location. Once you get the right location, they will just thrive. And when you have a lot of African violets, sometimes it's a little tricky to find that right location. But but I'll get there. I'll get there. And it's you know, the joys of growing African violets. Lots of fun. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I've hoped it's helped, and I hope that when you see those sort of little indicators happening with your plants, you'll know that they're getting too much sunlight. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.